A lot of moving parts in Allen Park right now, and Ben Johnson arrives in Chicago.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's plate this thing, everybody, on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network. Matt Derry with you on a Tuesday, January 21st, and a Wednesday, January 22nd. Thanks for making us your first listen, everybody, and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. And that includes on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Thank you to all the everydayers that are out there that watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, feeling for some of you Lions fans out there, everywhere I'm going right now. People are down in the dumps. I was at the gym this morning talking to my girl Taylor, Mandy. They're all down in the dumps. My boy Turner Batdorf, Jody, the whole crew. They're like in mourning. Terry Shell, all the everydayers. They're all hitting me up. They're just, this sucks. And I feel bad for Michigan fans that are Lions fans because last night they had to sit there and watch Ryan Day hoist the championship trophy. I'm sorry. That's kind of funny. That made me laugh. But thanks for checking us out today, everybody. Andrew Siciliano, the Siciliano Show on YouTube, talking NFL, voice of the Cleveland Browns as well, formerly of NFL Network, is going to join us momentarily on the program today. Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase at Gametime. Follow us on all the social media platforms and everything else. A lot to get into today. Ben Johnson has arrived in Chicago. I'm going to play you this audio. Lions fans, do me a favor. Some of you hit me up on the social medias. Ben Johnson's a traitor, and Sheila Ford-Ham put out a letter to the season ticket holders today, which was very nice. Classy move by Sheila, thanking the fans and saying, stick with us. There's more greatness to come. Just because Ben Johnson hasn't thanked Lions fans yet doesn't mean Lion fans have to get all upset with him. He took a head coaching job. He's going to a giant market. He's getting paid $13 million a year. He's about to be a top 6 paid coach in the league. He's going to make more than Dan Campbell. Everybody chill. Why am I getting, he's a traitor. Oh, okay, stop. I know you're upset about losing to Washington. We're all upset. Let's not do that. Here's Ben Johnson arriving in the Bears offices today and speaking with the people. He will have a noon Eastern, 11 Central press conference tomorrow up at Hallis Hall tomorrow. But here's Ben Johnson earlier today. Of course, I queue this up, and just as I had it queued up, it gets all screwed up. Okay, Ben Johnson earlier today. Take a listen.
Where we wanted to be. It's exactly where we wanted to be. This is going to be a challenge. I am well aware of that. I know what this division's about. And this is exactly where we want to be. We're going to go after this thing, and it's going to take all of us in this room. It's going to take this locker room. It's nothing more important than that locker room. And us serving that locker room and those players. All right? They need to understand that. They need to feel that from us every single day. And if we do that, the wins are going to come. The playoffs are going to come. All right? Can't wait to get to know you guys. And thank you so much for the warm welcome. Thank you.
All right, there it was. Ben Johnson walking into the offices at Hallis Hall and all the employees. And it was a nice little dog and pony show there. Look, Ben Johnson sounds like Dan Campbell. And he is now going into a situation, and I looked this up today. No coaches win in Chicago. The last coach to win there was Lovie Smith. And Lovie Smith did a lot better than I thought he did. But since then, the Mark Trestmans, the Matt Nagy's, the John Foxes, the Matt Eberfluses, Chicago is where good football men go to die. But Ben Johnson's going to try to resurrect this thing, and I gotta be honest, that offense is good. He's going to need to build an offensive line. The defense isn't bad. But I think that ownership and that front office is a clown show. That's just my opinion. But he's getting $13 million a year to coach. He's going to be making more than his old boss, Dan Campbell, who makes 11. And look, if he fails in Chicago, so what? Everybody does. Everybody has. So that's the latest. Ben Johnson in Chicago. Also today, reports surfacing out of Boston that Terrell Williams, the fine Lions defensive line coach, is being pursued by Mike Vrabel, his former boss in Tennessee, to be the Patriots defensive coordinator. Think about this for a second. The Lions are going to go through some attrition with their coaching staff, but this is getting a little ridiculous. I mean, we're talking Hank Fraley can probably choose between the Jets, Seahawks, and Bears if Aaron Glenn gets the Jets job. Aaron Glenn reportedly is a top candidate with the Jets, and Lance Newmark, former Lions, longtime scout and front office guy, who's the assistant GM of the Commanders, could be going with Aaron Glenn to the Jets. You can't tell me those guys aren't going to poach people from Detroit. Terrell Williams now? Hank Fraley, I think, is as good as gone, especially if he doesn't get the OC job here. If he doesn't and Tanner Engstrand gets it, what does that mean for Mark Brunell? Does he go with Ben Johnson to be the offensive coordinator there? Does Ben Johnson take Fraley if Engstrand gets it? If Fraley gets it here, does Engstrand go? A lot of moving parts. But Terrell Williams, here's the thing. The Lions won a lot of games this year up front. Their O-lines and their D-lines had a day. Remember the day the D-line had against Sam Darnold of Minnesota? Terrell Williams is damn good. Hank Fraley, I've told you, damn good. Deshae Townsend, the Lions DB's coach, has already interviewed places. Poaching is coming, and it is coming in a massive way. And I keep saying I got news for you. I sound like Don Shane. Rest in peace to Donnie, former Channel 7 legend. I got to tell you. That's what Don used to do. But I am saying, if Newmark gets a job and he goes there in Glen somewhere, I mean, you're talking about a lot of Lions front office people and assistants leaving. And it's going to be, I've heard from people that there's a lot of closed door meetings going on in Allen Park right now, trying to figure this out. And you know, Dan Campbell, this is hard for him because he's had such a great staff. The front office is unbelievable. And look, here's the biggest key for Lions fans to feel good. Your owner's not leaving. Your general manager's not leaving. And your coach isn't leaving. The brain trust, the big guns, Sheila, Brad, Dan, are all going to be here. That's the key. And there's going to be plenty of good coaches out there. They're going to want to come and work for Dan Campbell because he empowers them. And there's a lot of good assistant coaches that have kind of been waiting for opportunities to move up, especially inside that Allen Park facility, that are going to get opportunities. But that's a lot of people leaving, especially if Glenn gets a Jets job. You know he's going to take some folks. You know Ben's going to poach. Like I said, Hank Fraley right now, second interview in Seattle. You know Aaron Glenn would want him in New York, and you know Ben Johnson would want him in Chicago. The Bears' biggest problem is their offensive line. It's a dumpster fire. You bring Hank Fraley in there, make him head coach, maybe assistant head coach, offensive line. Or Hank's agent should be going to the highest bidder. Lions will be okay. But I'm just warning you, there's going to be a lot more people than you think leaving. And it's not because they don't want to be in Detroit. It's because they're going to get opportunities elsewhere. If Lance Newmark becomes a general manager of the Jets, you don't think he was in Detroit for 20, 25 years. Lance Newmark was here with Matt Millen was here. Long time Lions front office guy. All right, Andrew Siciliano coming up next right here on a Tuesday, Locked On Lions. And we're brought to you today by our friends at Gametime. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. great memories that I've had of getting tickets at Gametime include recently when I got to take my son, an Indiana grad, to Notre Dame. Imagine, well, I mean, come on. The Newt Rockne statue, touchdown Jesus. We had a blast, even though the Irish kicked the Hoosiers' butts. It was awesome. Got the tickets on Gametime. Now Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, looking for Wings tickets for Saturday night. Might be taking the bride down to see the Wings and Lightning. Can't remember the last time I was at a Red Wings game. I'm going to check out all the tickets on Gametime. It is easy. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. And as promised here on Locked On Lions Tuesday edition, Andrew Siciliano with us. The Siciliano Show on YouTube. He's got like 15 different NFL podcasts. And
I don't.
Yes, you do. And the radio voice of the Cleveland Browns joining the show as well. What's happening, buddy?
Muy buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Yes, there we go. Should we break down the Guardians off season?
Let's do it. I'm down. And I apologize in advance to your listeners, viewers, however you're consuming, listening to, subscribing. And be sure to subscribe and to like and to share this show. If I cough, I'm fighting the sinuses. The air here in Los Angeles also not that good right now for obvious reasons. So I apologize. I do not have a cough button on my home setup.
You're fine. How's things in LA? You seem to avoid the worst of all the wildfire stuff. Gotta be scary though.
It's heartbreaking. And yes, I am fortunate to live where I live and right now totally unaffected other than the bad air by the horrible wildfires. But I mean, I could see it from where I live and you could smell it certainly, which is a fact of life during wildfire season, living in Los Angeles for 25 years. There's always going to be, there's a bad one, that smell, but you know, it's honestly, Matt, it's heartbreaking because, you know, so many people who either lost their home or are in some way affected. And, you know, the trickle down, like there are people that lost their homes. And yes, I know plenty of people, unfortunately, in that boat. And then there are people like, for example, my buddy who lives 10 minutes away from the Palisades, but his 6-year-old goes to school in the Palisades. Now, the school didn't burn down. Miraculously, it's still standing, but the kids can't go back to school anytime soon. The building is uninhabitable, and plenty of this kid's classmates lost their homes. Oh. So you have a 6-year-old, you don't know when the kid's going to go back to school.
Right.
So, I mean, there's all those effects as well. I was talking to somebody today who lives in Altadena. Their neighborhood's okay, but they're about 6 blocks away from total devastation. They tried to go back to their home. The smell is so bad inside their home, but the smoke smells like a barbecue, every item in their home, that their home is basically uninhabitable, but it didn't burn down. And that's the everyday life that everyone is coping with right now. As I said, I am very fortunate. Almost feel guilty actually to live where we live, totally untouched, and grateful to be here, but trying to do volunteering and helping out as much I can. Because it truly takes a community to rebuild a community.
You've been around a lot of NFL, obviously have made the rounds around different cities, including Chicago. Thoughts, let's get the Ben Johnson stuff out of the way. I think you and I texted, I was texting some other people like Ben Johnson to Chicago. The place is a circus, yet 13 million reasons. And there he was walking into Hallis Hall today to a nice ovation.
I think it's great for the Bears. I think it's the win that they needed in the offseason. The cynic would say, you know, they've won a lot of offseason podiums. Show me regular season wins. And, of course, that's the ultimate test. You would know Ben better than me. I think we shook hands maybe years ago in Mobile at the Senior Bowl for a half minute. I'm certainly a fan of his offensive coordinator job, the job that he's done there with the Lions over the years. He was the number one guy in the market. Once Vrabel got to the Patriots, Ben Johnson was the belle of the ball. Everyone wanted him. I think it's a huge day for the Bears that Ben Johnson picked them. You can make the argument the Bears had the number one pick in each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, they traded it. Last year, they kept it. This year, Ben Johnson had the number one overall pick. Again, taking the Patriots out of it. And he chose the Bears. It's a great town. It's a great team. I think there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen in the front office. And that is why the job gave some people some pause. But if he can turn it around, I was talking to somebody today about the Buckeyes. This Buckeye team, they're never going to buy a meal in Columbus again. Much like the 85 Bears, I thought. The 85 Bears to this day have never paid for a meal. If Ben Johnson can bring the Bears back to glory, there's no town to do it in like Chicago.
Do you subscribe to this theory, and I think Schefter had this last week, of why would Ben Johnson go to Las Vegas, where it's inhabited in that division by the Bo Nixes, the Patrick Mahomeses, Herberts, Harbaugh, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and maybe stay with where you're comfortable in that division, NFC North, and you know it very well. Do you think that played a role in that?
I think it might. Here's what I think fans don't often, and I'm not putting down fans, I'm just trying to explain, taking behind the curtain a little bit. What they don't get when it comes to these kind of moves or free agent moves, when it comes to player movement, there are so many factors that go in to these decisions. It's not just, well, who's got the best quarterback and who's got the most cap space. There are taxes, for example. There are schools, like family concerns, right? You may not know, but someone's in-laws might live in that town and their wife wants to go there. Laugh. Those things matter. They truly do matter. There's also this assumption that, well, if player X is there, or rather, let me phrase it differently. If a coach is someplace and a player is a free agent, well, that coach that they used to play for must want them, and therefore the player's going to go there. Maybe they hate each other, and maybe that's why they don't want to go there. So there are a lot of factors. I think when you look around, people have said, well, why don't you want to go to Florida and Jacksonville? You got no state taxes like Vegas. You've got a quarterback. You've got Trevor Lawrence. Go fix him. There's some talent on that roster. Okay. Some people don't want to work with the GM there. Yeah. That matters, right? If Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles like each other, and they obviously have a connection from BC many years ago, relationships matter. Football is a relationship business like any other business on earth. And yes, it also helps that you've got Caleb Williams.
What about Aaron Glenn? Probably pick between, right now he's getting a second interview with the Jets. He's got ties to New Orleans, where he used to coach and play. Jets or Saints, if you had to guess, and you look at those jobs and go, oh gosh, I wouldn't go there. I would go there. What do you think?
Personally, I would take the Jets. That's just me. I think there is talent there. They got to figure the quarterback thing out. I think Joe Douglas has drafted better than some people give him credit for. There have certainly been some whiffs. Mekhi Becton, one of them, although he looked pretty good for the Eagles this year, playing right guard, a totally new position. The Jets haven't won anything in a long time. And there is the vice grip pressure of the New York media that you cannot escape. I love the people of New Orleans personally. New Orleans, don't take this the wrong way. I'd kind of rather live in the tri-state area than live in Louisiana. The Saints have for years, Mickey Loomis gets credit for it. Sean Payton as well, his partner in crime for many years, just, ran the cap like a credit card. And I don't know if that's a cap situation I want to go into. That roster got old really quickly. They got a good return on Marshawn Lattimore, especially considering the way he played last week. But I think there's some roster reconstruction that has to take place. But he played for him. I can't tell what Aaron Glenn thinks. By the time this might hit air, by the way, or get posted, Aaron Glenn might be a resident of New Jersey.
It's crazy. And the Lions are going to lose a lot of people. I want to ask you about that, and also get your thoughts on what took place Saturday
after the break.
Yes. Okay, we have to pay some bills. Let me tell Andrew Siciliano in a second about PrizePicks. And yes, PrizePicks does sponsor today's program. Playoff time. You're like me. You want to make the most of these final weeks of the football season, including playoffs this weekend. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football, you want a chance to win real money while watching these games. PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. It's simple. At PrizePicks, here's what you do. You simply pick more than or less than on player stats like total passing yards, rushing touchdowns for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or you want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has got you covered. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. What about Jalen Hurts this weekend? Eagles, Commanders, more than or less than 230 passing yards. You can put money on that at PrizePicks. Here's a special offer. For our Locked On Lions listeners, download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. The voice of the Cleveland Browns, also the Siciliano Show on YouTube. And if you follow him on Instagram, I love the beach walk videos.
Got to get those sponsored. I just left a lunch talking about that.
You need that. Andrew Siciliano with us. By the way, our big brother in the business, the great Iron Eagle, was on Jimmy Trainapod the other day. And he said did you listen to this where he carries 100 pens? He has 100 pens in his bag that he carries to games.
Are they how many
100.
So many questions. How many of them are Marriott Bonvoy labeled?
He didn't get into that. He just said he just has a pen fetish. Is there something that you carry in your game day bag that's like unusual? Or
game day bag?
Like computer bag? Is there anything in there that you go, oh, you know?
That's a good question. No, I wouldn't say unusual. I don't have an unusual thing. I am very forgetful, however, and I go through my checklist whenever I leave. Like, all right, go under the table and go and make sure I don't leave something in every booth. I still leave something in every booth.
In the booth.
In the booth. Or I've left multiple like chargers in the wall.
Oh yeah.
Where was I? Last year in excuse me, either Houston or Indy, I actually went downstairs without my suitcase. I left my suitcase in the booth. I was about to walk out of the stadium and get in the car and go to the airport and left my suitcase upstairs. So I'm one of those.
Yeah.
Forget everything. I had a game last year in which in 23, the Amari Cooper 265 game in Houston on Christmas Eve, in which I forgot my glasses. And I didn't realize until an hour before the game. And friend of the program, guy Mac Robinson, the
legend,
road engineer, lent me his glasses. He also has an astigmatism. And they were actually better than my glasses. So Mac did the game blind, pressing the buttons. Thankfully, we were okay. And I called Amari Cooper's historic day wearing somebody else's glasses. Yeah.
Wow. Mac's great. Little known fact. If you ever see that highlight of the Miguel Cabrera homer off Shane Bieber in the snow.
Really?
In Detroit, opening day. That was me and Mac drove up from Detroit. Me and Mac at that game with my friends Jeff and Lauren.
How about
Michael. Great times had by all during the COVID season. All right. Lions are going to lose people. I mean, Terrell Williams is talking to the Patriots.
It's the price of success.
Aaron Glenn's going to poach people. Ben Johnson might take Hank Fraley, who's talking also to the Seahawks. How much of that should we overrate? Or do you think, man, there's going to be some really good assistants who are going to go, I want to go work for Dan Campbell because he empowers his assistants?
I think all of that is true. I don't think it isn't overrated. I think the brain drain is real. I think you saw that in 2023 with the Eagles, and they took a step backwards. Granted, they made the playoffs last year, but the second half of the season they collapsed, and this year they had to bring in new coordinators. But they lost Shane Steichen, and they lost, why am I drawing a blank, Arizona, Jonathan Gannon, after the Super Bowl, and they had to replace the coordinators. It didn't work out last year. This year, another round of coordinators, and they're back. I think it's real. But if you go back to, let's go to New England, for example. Now, pump my brakes here. I'm not calling Dan Campbell Bill Belichick, okay? But you develop your own, you promote from within, and you can survive the cost of success, which is other teams wanting your people. And also, as you said, you're an attractive place to work. I would think that there are people that want to go work for Dan Campbell, truly. So it's not the end of the world, but those are very big shoes to fill, assuming you do lose both coordinators. Tyrell Williams, I know, could be out the door as well. Had a chance to work with him a little bit a couple of years ago at the Senior Bowl when he was one of the acting head coaches that week in Mobile. So he's obviously a talented guy. Is Antoine Randall going to go with one of those two guys? I don't know. Is he in line to be the OC? Don't know. Would he have thrown a better pass than Jameson Williams? Yes, in all likelihood. 100%. He could probably still sling it a little bit back from his Bloomington days. But yeah, it's real, but it is the price of success.
All right, you grew up in a beautiful Reston, Virginia. That was back in the day, Redskins country. Can you believe what's going on in Washington? And how stunned were you that Jaden Daniels and that crowd just came into Ford Field and totally took that crowd away?
I wasn't stunned. I am surprised. I'm not stunned because having seen Jaden up close this year, week 6, week 5, whatever it was in October when the Browns were there, he is the real deal. And when you talk to guys like Bobby Wagner or other people in that organization who have been around, Bobby won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. He obviously, had his cup of tea here in LA with the Rams as well. They know. And, I don't want to go overboard, but, there's almost like this messianic fervor there, but he is that good. I don't think, like, let's do a thought experiment. Has there ever been a better, more impactful rookie quarterback in the 105-year history of the league? Like, I'm not counting Otto Graham as a rookie quarterback because he had the old AAFC. Like, I mean, a real rookie quarterback. Has there ever been one? Look at all the other rookie quarterbacks. There have been 6 now that have made it to the conference championship game. The other 5 were all because of the defense. Mark Sanchez in 2009. They got there because of the defense. Ben Roethlisberger was very good, but they had the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
Sanchez threw 20 picks, by the way, that year. Like 2-to-1 pick to touchdown. Joe Flacco, very good, but they had the number 1 defense or number 3 defense in the NFL with the Ravens that year. Brock Purdy in 22 didn't start until December 4th. Brock Purdy, a big reason they made the run, but he wasn't there for the first 3 months of the season. And then the other one would have been Sean King in 99 with the Buccaneers. He only started like 5 games. And they had the Bucs defense. They had Sapp.
None of those compare. Maybe Roethlisberger, but
this is the only team that made the conference championship game specifically because of the quarterback.
Yeah.
He's that good. And they lost in Washington an entire bleeping generation of fans. Okay. We had like what we did at Sunday Ticket was transformational for a certain generation of fans. Throw in fantasy football, throw in the success of the Ravens and the absolute ineptitude of the Washington franchise. You have an entire generation that you lost. It's not that they didn't care about that team. They were beyond apathetic.
Horrible.
But they have awoken a sleeping giant, and I am so, so, so happy for that fan base and that region, because Matt, much like Cleveland, and much like Detroit, I know Detroit's got its hockey too, so I'm not trying to downplay the Wings or the Tigers or the Pistons, but at its core, Washington's a football town, right? Cleveland's a football town. Chicago's a football town. Detroit's a football town, right? And it's awake and alive again, and it's really cool.
Are you subscribing to the theory that some experts have that, and you know him well, Jared Goff can't win the big one, and it was again. I mean, the guy won 15 games. Where are you on that as they head into 2025?
Jared played well. I'm sorry, Jared played poorly. He didn't play well. Misspoke. Jared's a part of the reason they lost, clearly, without a doubt. He would admit that too. Is it Jared's fault they lost last year? Let me ask you that. Replay that game for me. You remember? You remember the details of it more than me. I remember Dan Campbell's 4th down decisions, but you tell me. I wouldn't put it on him either. So I think Jared has proven.
No,
Jared got to a
not
Super
the Niner
Bowl.
game. No.
Yeah, Go back and look at the 2018 NFC Championship game in New Orleans. I was there for that. Jared could win big games. Jared did not play well in the Super Bowl. Sean McVay will tell you right now that he didn't coach well in the Super Bowl. Bill Belichick outcoached him. He'll admit it. He has admitted it. If Brandon Cooks catches that ball in the end zone, Jared, look, there are 2 deep balls in the end zone that night in Atlanta. There's a deep ball down the right sideline. Brandon Cooks dropped. He dropped. Now, I think Stephon Gilmore got a hand in there, made a good play, but Brandon Cooks could have and should have caught it. Then there was the one right under the goalpost where Jared didn't connect. That was on Jared, not on Cooks. He saw him too late, and that was a bad ball. If either of those 2 go, it's a field goal game in the fourth quarter. I'm not saying they're winning. I'm not trying to rewrite history, but that wasn't all Jared. I give Matt Patricia, Bill Belichick some credit there. The 6-1, they won the game. Jared could win big games. I believe in him.
You're not allowed to bring Matt Patricia's name up on this show.
Yeah, you get it. He was an assistant then, and he and Bill Belichick cooked up a pretty darn good game plan, and they shut down a high-flying offense.
Yeah.
An offense that played a 54-41 shootout with Mahomes that year at the Coliseum, right?
Yeah.
A shootout that year as well at the Coliseum with Kirk Cousins, where I think the total was 90, where go find the NFL Films clip, but Kirk Cousins walked out to midfield, hugged Jared Goff, and said, I've been a quarterback for how many ever years in this league. That's the best game I've ever seen a quarterback play in person.
Wow.
Kirk Cousins said that to him. It's on tape. So, yeah, Jared could win big games, and I have no doubt he'll win big games in the future.
Andrew Siciliano Show on YouTube. Follow him on Instagram. Also, check him out next year when he's back as the radio voice of the Browns. Did a great job this year. Great to see you, my friend. And we'll check in. Are you doing Senior Bowl? I didn't even ask you.
I am going to go down. I'm not doing the game for NFL Network. The great Rhett Lewis takes that job over. Well-deserved. His father, the great Dean Kleinschmidt, has been the trainer at the Senior Bowl for like 30, 40 years. So
Dean
it's awesome. I don't know if it's been announced, but I think it's been announced. But it's awesome that Rhett is going to be up there in the booth. Well-deserved. He had been doing the East-West game and so many other great things on the network for years. And so he's going to do that one. I will be there, however, with the Browns. They had the number 2 pick. So I'm going to go down there with the Browns and do my Browns pod, the Bark Tank.
Yes.
From down there for a day or 2. So Mobile, hopefully they will dig out from the snow by then, next week.
All right, brother. Great to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, sir.
Andrew Siciliano with us. Check him out wherever you can find him because he's everywhere. On a Tuesday, Locked On Lions.
Sorry for the coughing, my friend.